radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk. Well, greetings and felicitations to all of you. Thanks for joining. I'm Scotty Roberts. This here is my show, the Intrepid radio program, right here on my YouTube channel. You can catch us live on YouTube, on the Facebook channels, over on my Instagram, and I think even over on my X account. So you can go over there and pick everything up. Now, if you are, I'm muted. Why should I be muted? That's interesting. I'm picking up my microphone. I'm seeing, are you sure I'm muted? Can everybody not hear me? Mute, it says. Muted, mute. According to this, I am on. Let's see what my settings say. Let's see, audio. Yep, audio says we're up. On my USB audio codec 08BB9204. So we're good. I hear you 5x5, says JP. Thank you. Audio is perfect. Yeah, Rapid Dog. Over there in the chat room, we are not muted. Let's take a drink on that one. Have a sip. All right, everybody, welcome to the program. If you are in any place other than over on the YouTube channel, you can chat there, but you cannot see the live chat and you cannot participate. You can leave comments there, and if I see them, I can comment back. But the best place, if you'd like to join the fellow Intrepids and join in the live chat, is come on over to the YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. And this show, individual shows, have all kinds of weird links that they put up for the daily show. So just go over there and you'll see it playing and click on it. And you can come right into the chat room. And I see a bunch of you here already. Those of you who are in the chat room now, JP was the first one here. Taps mic. Check, check, check one, he says. Testies 1, 2. And Rapid Dog was here. And the breakdown is here. That is Aaron Barker. Folks, I will be on Aaron's program on Saturday morning. So if you are sticking around home, you got your computer nearby or your phone, go on over to Rumble. There is a, I think it's, isn't it, let me look as long as I'm talking about it here, Aaron. The Breakdown is the name of the show. And if you go over to rumble.com, it's look for Break D Radio. Break D, like in Daddy. So Break D Radio. And that's over on Rumble, and you can listen to that show on Saturday morning. For those of you here who are regular listeners to this show and have been followers of mine for upwards of 22 years since I started, there's a couple of you out there that have been around since 2000 when I first started doing this. But those of you who've been with this show, a lot of what we're going to talk about are things we've talked about on this show before, but Aaron is bringing his own interview twist. It's Aaron and Erica and Brian are going to be doing the interview. So come on over on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, and you can pick up the show. So Ancient Aliens, probably a little bit. That'll be in there. Mysteries, weird stuff, paranormal. We might even hit some politics if you're lucky, if we get that far. So that's what's going on this week. All of you who are here today, I'm going to talk about something tonight that I think it's an important thing for us. It's vital. It's something especially nowadays when we get bogged down with politics, get bogged down with the last year to 5 years of politics and the way it plays on us. Sometimes we can get so hooked into that stuff. Well, I know I can. And it's not that it's not essential to understand what's going on, but sometimes you sit back and you go, man, I need a change. I need something different. Sometimes we just need to go on an adventure. That Mark Twain quote that is my mantra. That's why you've heard it so much here. The one where he says, 20 years from now, you'll regret more the things you didn't do than the things you did do. So cast off from the safe harbor. Set your sails to the trade winds. Explore, dream, discover. Because, as I like to say, and I say for myself, 20 years from now, you're going to say, I wish I'd done that thing. I wish I'd gone there. And you know what? There's no turning back the clock. So I will put in this little caveat for myself personally. I like adventure. I like going on adventures. I like doing things. The last few years, I haven't done a lot. Since the heart surgery, since the hip surgery, since all of that, blah, blah, blah. And I've got a family and kids that are growing up, getting into their teens, all of them. Today is my middle daughter, Rowan's 13th birthday. I've got Ellery's 10th birthday coming up in a few days. And Flynn just turned 15. My older kids are all grown up. My twins are 32. My son's 23. So with all of that going on and life going on, and you got to keep life rolling, you've got to keep the money coming in the door to pay the bills, make sure the electricity's paid, make sure you got food on the table, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes it's really hard to say, today we're going to go on an adventure, or even to plan one, something grandiose. But we all need this. We all need to have a chance to step away, to get away, to do something. And do you know, there are grand adventures you can set on, such as going to Egypt. I've been to Egypt several times, and that was an adventure for me. And I do want to put out a nice thank you to John Ward, who is one of the people, probably the closest friend I had in this world, and still is. We just don't see each other as much these days. And he's the one that encouraged me to come to Egypt the first time. And we traveled around the first time I was in Egypt for a month, going to see all the things we were writing about. And then I went back a few more times. We spent time on their archaeological site. All of this, he extended adventure to me when I was in the hospital. If you remember, I've said this before, and I had my chest cut open, and they worked on my heart. John sent me, he was over in, I don't know if he was in Egypt or in Sweden at the time, but he sent me a message, and he said, Scotty, brother, he says, men like us don't die in hospital beds, so I have no fear that you're going to pass away. He says, we die doing great things and mounting phenomenal adventures. And I love that from him. And now he's going through some rough times. He's just gone through all his chemotherapy. Hopefully that's all taking very well this time around. And this is his second round with this. And so everybody put out some good energy and some good prayers for John. And so adventure is something that we need. It's something our soul craves. Adventure can be grandiose. It can be like going out on a wild adventure, traveling to other parts of the world. Adventure can be stepping out your front door and taking a walk, going someplace, going to a park, going to the woods over here that we have nearby. It's all mindset. Just said Michelle Canham-Free. Michelle Canham-Free is here. Nice to see you. Over in the chat room, she just said it's all mindset. And yes, it is. You're absolutely correct about that. And so I wanted to be, it's easy to try to lapse esoteric when we talk about these things, or to get all poetic with the way we say things. But tonight, I just want us to think about this, and I want to talk about the things we can do for adventure and why adventure is so important for us. When we talked about books and talked about how certain kinds of books are good for us, reading is good. We've talked about for kids how adventure books and scary books are great for kids because they do certain things. Adventure does the same kind of things to us. And I've got a list of 9 reasons why adventure that we're going to get to tonight. But I've got some other things too that I want us to take a look at. Why adventure is good for us. And I think that it's something that all of us need to have in our lives, and all of us need to be able to look back on later in life. Now, I started saying with all the things my body has gone through, I haven't done as much adventuring as I like. And I sit more sedentary these days because of physical things that have gone on, family. But there are things we can do with our families as well. The talk has come up again in this family about my kids actually brought it up because Rainey and I one time talked about, let's just get out of the house. Let's put the things we don't want to keep, or the things we want to keep, in storage, sell or give away the rest. Let's buy an RV or work on a bus that's converted into one. Let's get the kids. Let's work it so the family can live in tighter quarters like that and just hit the road. Take them out of school, homeschool them from the road, and just travel around the country and see things for a year, 2 years, whatever. Maybe that would be our life. There are people who I know, I'm watching videos of a guy named Trent the Traveler. Look him up on YouTube. Trent the Traveler. He's a guy that he's living the van life. And he's now in his 5th year doing this. And he just travels around the country, sees what he wants to see. He's got a Patreon site. He does pretty good videos. Just for a single guy out there with his dog Millie, and they go all over the country. If he wants to see something, he goes and does it. And he raises his money on Patreon, on YouTube, and places like that. And people want to see his videos. And so go look him up. Lee. I'm looking at Rabid Dog saying Lee R.V. Oswald. Nice. His name is Trent the Traveler. And he's got a big van that he converted over. They extended the roof up a little bit, things like that. And it's a really nice, it's soothing to watch. So having said that, I want to read you some things here. And I want to get into looking at this. Why adventure is something that we should all do. Why is it good for us? Why should we be engaging in it? What's good about adventure? And why would I say we all need to seek adventure and do things? Let's get into this a little bit. Why is adventure good for us? I've been asked a lot about what I do, the kinds of adventures I've been on, some of the traveling I've done outside in nature, out of the country, some of the things that take on, as I say in my own bio over on my website, scottallenroberts.com. In the About Me page, I say I have lived some of those things that other people only dream about doing. And I said, as a matter of fact, I said this exactly over there. I said, about doing this, I talk about being a designer, an illustrator, and so on. I'm a writer. I occupationally hover in the advertising ghettos of Minneapolis and St. Paul. But that's merely the normal side of me. I've had an illustrious career that sometimes seems and feels more like the stuffs of fictional characters than the down-to-earth roles I play in my day-to-day existence. I've been places. I've seen things that most people only experience vicariously through books or movies or other sources of wild imaginative. Yet I have been there in some of those exotic, alluring, haunting places, experiencing what some might only find in the realm of their daydreams or their nightmares. And being an academician, I maintain my pragmatic persona and a healthy skepticism, but I have to admit that I've been touched by the mysterious, the metaphysical, maybe somebody even said the diaphanous, the things we don't see. And in my adventures, I found that horror meets history and the diaphanous world of gods, demigods, and spirits of the dead, as 4th century BCE Egyptian historian Manetho said, is a very real, ebbing, and flowing place in and out of the land of the corporeal. And what about you? I'm saying take a look at your life and ask yourself, have I ever engaged in or set out to do the things that I want to do, that I dream about doing, that would take a little bit of time and effort to step out of my comfort zone and maybe do something adventurous? And this is what I hope that this will whet your appetite for as I start talking about why adventure is such a good thing. And my hope is that this is going to be useful, especially to anyone who's wondering about how they can look after themselves better amongst all the noise and the stress that goes around us in life. Michelle Canham-Free is here. I love the things she posts about life, about the way she looks at life. I don't see Michelle Canham-Free as this wild adventurer with the fedora and the whip and the traveling to different countries. I see her as somebody, though, who sees her life as adventure every day. And she has some good tips for you out there as well. So let's look at this. Number one, my lived experience tells me that adventure, small or big, is a revolutionary act of freedom. If you want freedom, you want liberty, you want a revolutionary act, engage in adventure. To adventure is to leave our safe harbor, to set sail into the unknown. It's how we grow. It's how we get to know more about who we are and what we want to be and where we want to go. I've known people that, inspired by other people, have packed a bag and gone off and done adventuring. My own grandfather, who passed away, some 30 years ago, 95, he passed away. And but he would be the person that he's the one who had the little island in the Honduras because he was a scuba diver, and he pulled up roots here in the States and went and lived that lifestyle. He would travel around the world, the quintessential travel the world on 50 cents a day type of guy. Backpacking when he was 75 years old, backpacking the jungles of Thailand, I remember. And he would get pictures developed and send them back. He'd spend time with people he met there. He'd put up a hammock in the woods, and this is what in the jungles, and this is what he did. You can look. There's an excellent read called Adventure Revolution. It's by Belinda Kirk, and it's an excellent read. It provides empirical evidence and plenty of inspiration on the power of an adventure challenge. What challenges you to engage in adventure? I just watched a little series. I didn't see every episode of it. It's like an 8 to 10 episode thing that's out there. Ralph Fiennes, if you remember him, he was in, Joseph Fiennes. I think Ralph was the brother who played Voldemort and other things. Joseph Fiennes was in things like Shakespeare in Love 25 years ago or more. You've seen him in other things. And he went out with a cousin of his who's an older man, but is a world-renowned adventurer, and they went and they toured Egypt. And I thought, and it was a really inspiring series to get out there and to do something. Michelle says here, she says, magical thinking means adventure at every turn. And being alive in spirituality, or spiritually awakened, is one nonstop grand adventure. That's what I meant when I was talking about Michelle and the way she sees things. So let's look at this. Number one, adventure can happen anywhere. Experience tells me that adventure, as John Muir said, is really also about going in. We're going in. We're hitting the headlamp, and we're taking the dive. And this connection, when it happens, is really one of the rare freedoms that we can experience on a day-to-day basis. The beauty of deciding to go on an adventure, particularly one that involves an immersion in nature, is that you don't decide to go, you just do. And yes, we have entanglements. We've got jobs. We've got families. We've got responsibilities. We've got obligations. So sometimes we can't just pick up and say, I'm going on an adventure today. We have to plan a little more in our busy lifestyles, but slowing down with the natural sounds and the rhythms of nature really helps us to find precious moments of awareness. And it's so crucial to us to make real choices. So in this way, we can say that adventure in nature is a powerful tool. When's the last time you just went outside in nature? I'm not talking just, I went out and mowed my grass the other day. I'm talking about getting out. My son took me for a walk in this little wooded area. We live in a what would be like a suburban neighborhood, but we're in a rural small town. And between here and the school, there's a plot of land that's a forest. And they have paths all done out in them. And, they put down the small wood shavings are all through the path. But it's really almost wild in there, save for the fact that you're walking on a path that's been maintained by the park system. But it was a deep woods that really covers the distance. When I look at it on a map, take a city block and expand it by 2 or 3 city blocks all put together, and you've got this big hilly, pathy, tree-filled forest. And so when's the last time you went outside and felt nature? Nature's a powerful teacher. And it's not always a comfortable experience, but perhaps it's a necessary one. There are people I know that have camped in Dartmoor in the United Kingdom, England. Natural silence was a bed of moss, occasional tree root, a canopy of a wise old dwarf oak tree. Stars gave him the deepest and best sleep ever. And at the time, he was going through a difficult end of his marriage. And so a deep restorative sleep was priceless. And many years later, that experience inspired several other things that he did in the adventure field. To appreciate the value of nature connection and natural silence, there are different things you can do. Take a look at something called sanctuaries of silence. And you can find that. I think you can look it up online and see that. And it will give you an appreciation for the silence, the nature and the natural silence. You have to find adventure strengthens meaningful relationships. Adventure does that. Strengthens your relationships, the meaningful ones. While I love and value some of the solo adventures I've gone on, I really believe that adventuring with others is a great way to strengthen your relationship with them. I know when John Ward and I did our adventuring in Egypt, it strengthened our bond as friends. When Rainey and I would go for a walk in the woods on a mini adventure, it brings you closer for the day. Understanding or undertaking a large or a small adventure with friends and loved ones really creates a shared experience that's so important for bonding, for building trust, for creating meaning and a sense of achieving something together. Something I want to do still, and I've got to work myself to get up into this nowadays, the physical part of it. But I would like to take my wife and kids, maybe a couple of friends if they want to tag along. I would love to duplicate or replicate Lewis and Clark, not the whole expedition, but like going paddling the Limhi Pass and a Yellowstone area, canoeing. You can get these excursions that are like that, and it gives you a feel for what they saw and what things were like. I think as a family, that would be an amazing thing to do. A simple walk, though, in the local countryside can be a hugely mood enhancing and creative thing. I found I talk more freely, and as time slows, I listen more. I listen better. I believe I even measure the passing of time through my solo and shared journeys. And it's powerful stuff, these shared adventures that we take. Hey, Sarah, welcome to the chat room tonight. And everybody else I didn't say hi to, by the way. So I'm so grateful for cycling adventures. I haven't done many of them, but I used to cycle all the time. It was probably when I was in the best shape of my life, was when I cycled a lot. Adventure is an essential tool for growing up and for staying young. I sometimes look at myself, I look at my body, I look at how I have felt in recent days. Not the best lately. We can't seem to pinpoint what it is. Sometimes I think it's just growing old and it's being more sedentary. But I find myself longing to do the adventure, to get out and do something so I can revitalize myself physically, mentally, spiritually. These are things that we need to do. This is why adventure is so important. I think it's an important tool for growing up and for also staying young. I love travel. I love adventure. I love getting outdoors into some wild places. I haven't been to the wildest of places, but I've been some pretty wild places. I haven't done like the Pacific Northwest rainforest. I would love to do that. But I've been in places in Egypt where I've been out in sometimes I was standing out there in Egypt in the middle of the desert on a rocky mountaintop overlooking a wadi and seeing, a 2,000 to 3,000 year old, not 3,000, 2,000 year old Roman wall that ran the whole expanse of the wadi. And as I'm climbing down into the wadi, it was like climbing down a mountain. We were going down all the broken crags and stuff like that, John Ward and I. And I was climbing down. It was like a weird staircase going down all this broken up rock on the mountainside. And it took a good half an hour, 40 minutes to get down to the bottom of the wadi. And but I stood there at one moment and I looked around and I went, wow, look at where I am. I said, I am out here in the middle of nowhere in Egypt, in the middle of the Sahara, and I am I am climbing mountains. And I'm out where there's nobody here. You could drive an hour and get to a village, but it was an amazing thing to stand there and say, I am separated from everything. And I want to show you, if I've got it handy here, and I don't know that I do, but I'll show you this very moment when I was thinking that. And the only other person around was John, and he took this picture. I'll share it with you this way. I'm going to save this as a PDF. And folks, if you're over just listening, you won't see this. So hopefully you can take a quick peek at your screen and you can see what I'm doing here. And let's call that. And here, let me load this up in here. And you can see this is one of those moments where I realized where I was, that I was in the middle of nowhere, and it was refreshing. It was revitalizing. John and I deepened our friendship just being out there together in this area. And you can tell by my speech here, I'm stalling just a little bit so I can load this and show this to you. It's right here. It's loading up, and I'll show you. So this is that moment when I stood out there. Here you go. When I stood out there, and there's the old Roman wall behind me. And you look out in the background there. Luxor, Egypt, and the Nile is somewhere to the far upper left of this picture. You couldn't see it from here. It was an hour to an hour and a half's drive in that direction. So we are southwest of Luxor, where this picture was taken. And this is what I mean when I say that we've seen firsthand how beneficial adventures can be. Going out into the wild places. I was told one thing by John when we were walking down, when we got to the top of this mountain that's in the picture. We're on the mountain here, and we had to go up to the top. And when we went back down into the wadi, John said, in the craggy rocks, just be careful of horned vipers. They like to live, and you'd see their tracks in the dirt, the blown sand dust that was all over the rocks. So they were there. And so it was just being careful to make sure I didn't step on one. So for young people, stepping safely outside their comfort zone and into the wild, it develops a resilience, a confidence. Life skills can give a powerful new sense of what's possible. Imagine never having climbed a hill, to summiting a mountain, never having responsibility to manage a team, or finding a voice and a confidence to lead others. Imagine overcoming fear and knowing that you can and did survive with the help of others. Imagine really feeling the wild. So much that you start to feel you are really wild by nature yourself. And once you see this, you can not see it. And only one thing remains: to get back out on an adventure and take others with you. The next year from when this picture was taken is when I took my daughters with me, my older daughters. And there's many organizations you can be part of. There are people you can meet that can take young people, that can take you and your kids on safe adventures in and to the wild places out there. And it's worth doing. And you don't have to go far for an adventure. Adventure isn't always about going away somewhere. Adventure can take place in your own home, your own garden, your own backyard, your own local area. So during COVID, we went out and did a lot of walking. We went and looked at places. We walked through the woods and things like that. We adapted to the sequestration, and we couldn't go very far. We couldn't travel very far. Um, it lifts your spirits. It connects you with nature, with ancient landscapes, and it gives you meaning. Me standing out there in the middle of the Sahara Desert near Luxor, Egypt, on a mountaintop, it opened me up. It opened my mind up. It's that inner and outer adventure that took place. And adventure is always a good investment. Travel and adventure aren't rational things, but it's in our genes. So you have to start planning your excursion. There's a little story here, one of the saddest stories I've heard. There was a man with a small business and a wife whose greatest wish was to see the world. He was burdened by the demands of his work. He could seldom take a break, yet he promised that once his business flourished, they would travel the globe together. And I think of the animated movie Up, where the couple gets married when they're young, they grow old together, and they keep having the savings bank, the pot that they kept putting money in, they keep having to break it to fix a window, fix a tire on a car, buy a house, do the things, and they had great adventures planned that they never got to take. But this guy in this story, he could seldom take a break to get away. Yet he promised that once his business flourished, they'd travel the globe together. As time slipped by, his wife grew weary of waiting and begging, so ventured out with friends instead, exploring new countries and new cultures. Meanwhile, the man remained tethered to his business. Approaching retirement, he recognized that their time was dwindling and prepared to fulfill his promise. Tragically, as they stood on the cusp of travels, his wife fell ill and soon passed away, taking their shared dreams of adventure with her. Now, that can sound like a guilt story in another setting, but thinking about this during a conversation about differing perspectives on finances and among couples, a friend shared this story with me, and it involved a relative of hers. And that's lingered in my mind ever since. And if you've ever seen the movie Up and you see that relationship, it's a little musical vignette set to this couple getting older and never being able to do it. It's sad and it makes an impact on you. Lost opportunities, says Sarah Yusuf. Yes. This is where I don't mean to wax maudlin at all, but I am always impressed by the irreplaceable moments of time. Those things that 20 years down the road, we're going to look at and say, why didn't I do that thing back then? Can I still do it now? It's okay to build memories and have them as memories, but you got to get out and do it first. But this story is not solely the tragic reminder of life's unpredictability or the argument for occasional indulgence against financial caution that strikes me. What truly resonates is the universality of the wife's desire to travel. Do you think of that aspect of this? Why is it that so many of us share this dream of traveling, of going to amazing places? Travel was the most frequent last wish of those who were suffering from a terminal illness, according to a 2022 study. So what is travel? What is it about travel that makes it universally accepted discretionary expense? One that we willingly incorporate into our budgets or aspire to include. We have to build up a savings. We have to do this. Did you know JP and I, we may have mentioned this on the show here, Jason, JP in the chat room, he and I 10 years ago talked about taking motorcycles and bringing them over to Egypt or buying them over there and taking a motorcycle trip through Egypt. Now, we have never done that. I think I'm young enough still to do it. Maybe he's not. He's aging rapidly. There's still time to do that. But we also have to balance out all of the things that we need to do to take care of family, to take care. My wife, for instance, the last 3 years, she's been to Alaska every year. Once for a month, once for 3 weeks, once for 2 weeks. I've been to Egypt 4 or 5 times, each time not much less than a month most times over the last 12 years. So we can find ways to do things. Our willingness to cram into airborne tin cans isn't driven by the prospect of sipping subpar margaritas at a resort somewhere, but by a deeper impulse to seek out the unfamiliar and embrace the thrill of adventure. When we went down to the island where my grandfather lived in the Honduras, he lived in a little shack. It was built out of 2x4s and sugar cane were the walls, and a tin roof that was thatched over the top. And he lived right on the beach, 40 feet from the edge of the water, and it was a coral reef out on the reef. So inside the reef there was all like a swimming pool, a wild swimming pool. But we would swim in the ocean every day. We'd climb up to the top of the mountains. It's some of the artifacts I've shown you before, which are sitting over on that shelf, were things that we picked up on the mountain. And that was, of course, back 30 years ago when I did that. And I brought that bowl through customs and a couple of little artifacts, and they didn't take them. So now the mindset I have now, I wouldn't take any artifacts from anywhere without permission or without special dispensation of some kind. But we went off the beaten track. He lived on a little house on stilts. You walk down the beach, there were more houses on stilts. There was the resort, but the resort was built into the jungle and out onto the quay, which grew off the reef, filled with coconut trees and banana trees and palm trees. And they had the little cottages out there that were not modern. They were all built like my grandfather's house. And this was a very upscale diving resort. So we went over there. We'd shower on the docks where they rinsed the salt water off the scuba tanks. But then we'd get up and we'd go up into the mountains and hike up the mountain, machetes in hand, because we wanted to get out. And then we'd go into the little towns and we meet the people. It was very cool. Consider Theodore Roosevelt. He was a man whose life was a tapestry of bold endeavors. From swimming with sharks to investigating a shipwreck to trekking across America on horseback, venturing into uncharted waters of the Amazon, he epitomized the adventurous spirit. He once encouraged us by saying, "Life is a great adventure, accept it in such a spirit." And what seasoned travelers, from historic explorers to today's travel gurus, seem to grasp, and what we can apply to our financial lives, is this keen insight into what yields enduring joy. They guide their innate desires, shaped through eons of evolution, toward meaningful pursuits that stand the test of time and leave no room for regret. I have no regrets for any of the adventures I have set out on. I can tell you that right now. No regrets whatsoever. The value of spending money is subjective, yet there's a compelling argument that investing in travel and adventure is universally beneficial. We don't all need to live life on the grand scale of Roosevelt, but looking at research that underscores the benefits of travel and adventure bolsters the idea that seeking adventure is not just worthwhile, it's necessary. Otherwise, we stagnate. What do they say? The greatest killer is being sedentary, immobility. Daniel Craig, now there's an adventurer if I ever saw one. He says, "Hey now, it was exploring whale slack ale. I don't know what you're saying there, brother. Are you talking about ale?" Daniel Craig, he's got this beautiful cottage that he bought up on, it's on the, is it North Carolina or South Carolina that you're in? And he's up on the beach there, and he's got his veranda. He's got a webcam he's putting up there so you can see it. I've got an invite to come down there anytime and sit on the veranda and drink with him and watch the sunrise over the Atlantic Ocean right off his back step. Oh, I was discussing cheap margaritas. Yeah, you were mentioning your recent equivalent. I wondered when you said whale slick ale. I know ale. I saw the ale part. Thank you, Daniel. So what are those pyramids for, says Rapid Dog? They're for us to go visit and see now. Sorry. Sarah says, Up is not a good example. At the end of the movies, Ellie wrote a thank you for the adventure at the end of the adventure book. Yeah. I think she meant their marriage. So, I can take this picture down now. I think the little vignette was worth looking at. You should look that one up and see that. But adventure isn't just worthwhile, it's necessary. And if the ultimate purpose of money is to forge a meaningful existence, then few endeavors are as compatible with this aim as the pursuit of adventure. It's an insightful lens through which to view the potency of our innate tendencies and the significance of their role in shaping our actions. It serves as a prime example of how our ancient instincts continue to influence our modern behaviors. And it highlights the importance of acknowledging and productively honoring all these natural drives with our time, our energy, and our money. The question comes in, are we... Yes, Sarah Yusuf says in the chat room, adventure invites new perspectives. It does. Which kind of ties into my next point. Are we born for adventure? And it wasn't really a question. We're born for adventure. Legend tells us that Antarctic explorer Ernest Shackleton once sought adventurous souls for his ill-fated South Pole expedition with an ad promising more danger than reward. And the ad said something like, "Men wanted," in big type, bold type. And underneath it in small type, "For hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return, doubtful, honor and recognition in case of success. Ernest Shackleton, 4 Burlington Street." So, looking for men that want to join me on this. It was his 3rd attempt at the journey and not his final one. He would die on his 4th voyage to Antarctica less than 6 years later. And Shackleton's resolve wasn't unique. History is dotted with intrepid explorers like Lewis and Clark, Daniel Yergin. For every household name, there were countless others ready to step into their shoes, drawn by the allure of the unknown despite the perilous journey and the uncertain outcomes. There's a song that Sam likes. We sang it when we were drinking on St. Patrick's Day, if you remember that show. For just one time, I would take the Northwest Passage to find the hand of Franklin reaching for the Beaufort Sea, tracing one warm line through a land so wild and savage, and make a Northwest Passage to the sea. And it's a song about adventuring. And it's a song about what's inside us. And if you look at all the words of this song, this is saying exactly what I'm talking about. It's by Stan Rogers, and you can go look up the lyrics. It goes like this. It says, the chorus I just sang, westward from the Davis Strait, 'tis there 'twas said to lie, the sea route to the Orient for which so many died. Seeking golden glory, leaving weathered broken bones in a long forgotten lonely cairn of stones. For just one time I would take the Northwest Passage to find the hand of Franklin reaching for the Beaufort Sea, tracing one warm line through a land so wild and savage, and make a Northwest Passage to the sea. And he goes on, he says, I'll sing some of these. He says, 3 centuries thereafter, I take passage overland in the footsteps of brave Kelsey, where his sea of flowers began. Watching cities rise before me, then behind me sink again. This tardiest explorer, driving hard across the plain. For just one time, I would take the Northwest Passage and find the hand of Franklin reaching for the Beaufort Sea, tracing one warm line through a land so wild and savage, and make a Northwest Passage to the sea. And through the night behind the wheel, the mileage clicking west, I think upon Mackenzie, David Thompson, and the rest, who cracked the mountain ramparts and did show a path for me to race the roaring Fraser to the sea. For just one time, I would take the Northwest Passage and find the hand of Franklin reaching for the Beaufort Sea, tracing one warm line through a land so wide and savage, and make a Northwest Passage to the sea. How then am I so different from the first men through this way? Like them, I left a settled life, I threw it all away, to seek a Northwest Passage at the call of many men, to find there but the road back home again. For just one time, I would take the Northwest Passage and find the hand of Franklin reaching for the Beaufort Sea, tracing one warm line through a land so wild and savage, and take the Northwest Passage to the sea. So it's the same. It's the things that we seek. It's the things we want to do. It's the things we need to do. Shackleton said, I believe it is in our nature to explore, to reach out into the unknown. Captain Kirk said, risk. Risk is our business. And he was right, Shackleton. We only have to follow the money. The world spends around 10 trillion on travel annually. One budgeting survey found the majority of respondents, 53%, prioritize saving for travel over things like hobbies, which is 29%, retirement, which is 24%, home improvements, another 24%. Over the past couple of years, we've seen how much it meant to us after being mostly confined to our homes during the pandemic. As the world gradually reopened, many people engaged in revenge travel. The spike in dining out and travel spending to make up for lost time during the shutdowns. So why did the pandemic feel so stifling? Being locked up is against our nature. We inherently have the drive to explore. We're born for adventure. We're born for seeking answers. We're born to find the unknown. You link this into our spirituality, and you have a, not metaphoric, but a figurative sense, the adventure that we all set out on. That's finding the great unknown. Sometimes we're given the answers that we should be following on a spiritual path, and they aren't enough for us. Why? Because we aren't doing the exploring. We need to know, we need to find, we need to look. Aaron Barker posed some questions to me today. And Aaron, if you're still out there and still listening to this is part of my answer to that question, is that I don't disbelieve in God. I do struggle with the active presence of a God in our lives. And I think God has given us the great creator, the originator, as the jinn said, has given us that inborn desire to find the answers, to seek them out. If we're given everything, there's nothing to strive for. For 99% of our history as human beings, we've lived as nomads. We're constantly on the move in search of food, better land, or connections with other groups. And this nomadic lifestyle has ingrained in our brains a link between movement and survival. Therefore, you could say, our brains are naturally wired and drawn to novelty, to deriving pleasure from discovering the new and the unfamiliar. This isn't just a random trait. There are specific neurons dedicated to seeking out novel experience. And this inclination towards curiosity and the joy of discovery has evolutionary benefits. The brain releases dopamine, that feeling of feel-good neurotransmitter stuff, when we encounter new experiences that enrich our understanding of the world or of ourselves. Some scientific research suggests that the existence of the wanderlust gene, that's the DRD4-7R gene, which may predispose individuals to be impulsive and crave adventure. In essence, travel and adventure invigorate us, making us feel more alive. As legendary travel writer Bruce Chatwin once put it, travel doesn't merely broaden the mind, it makes the mind. The compulsion for adventure is a universal human trait. It's woven into the fabric of all cultures and celebrated through all the stories of ancient Greek, Buddhist, Christian, Hindu tradition, among many others. And they often portray religious figures as wanderers who travel around to impart wisdom and interact with other people. You didn't see Jesus in the Gospels with his feet nailed down to the floor in Galilee, did you? Went all over the place. And I happen to be one of those who believe that during the missing years, quote unquote, of Jesus, that he spent it in the Far East. He went to different places. I think it was very clear when we talked the other day about the demoniac of the Gadarenes, that famous story where Jesus casts out the demon who called himself Legion and went into the herded pigs and ran the pigs into the sea off the edge of the cliff. Well, this probably was not a place in Galilee, off the Sea of Galilee. Number one, nobody raised pigs in Galilee. It was a Jewish country and region. Pigs were forbidden for Jewish consumption. They were not kosher. So where did this happen? There are places that we found. We'll talk about this again another time, but I think it was in a place. They went to the Mediterranean, took a boat, and they went over to a place called the Gadarenes, which is over near the Straits of Gibraltar in Spain. There's legends in the little town there that said Jesus visited this town when he was alive with his disciples. So it's interesting. But it's in every religion. You find these wise men, these teachers, these scholars, these rabbis, itinerant ministers who would wander and travel to impart wisdom and interact with the people. This concept resonates with Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. If you've never read that book, that story arc where the hero embarks on an adventure, returns transformed in body, in mind, in spirit, with a newfound understanding of the world around him, even while standing on familiar ground. Adventure feeds our soul with hope, with purpose, with community, with work, with joy, with imagination, with accomplishment. Key ingredients for a fulfilling life. It's about treating new memories, fostering connections, embracing challenges that spur growth. So then, why are we more excited to rack up travel points than a 401k contribution? Because adventure is etched into our DNA. Retirement is not. That's just what happens when we can't adventure anymore. The fact is, our deep-seated instincts shaped over millennia when our ancestors led nomadic lives, and that still influences our decisions now, including our spending habits. We can harness these impulses wisely, or we can let them run amok and wild. It comes down to understanding what truly brings lasting fulfillment. 20 years from now, I'll regret more the things I didn't do than the things I did do. And there's benefits, by the way, of travel and adventure. What are they? If they could be distilled into a pill form, we'd spare an expense in filling and refilling the prescription. But here's a short list of some of the scientifically proven benefits of travel and adventure. Improved health, lower stress, reduced risk of depression, enhanced creativity, increased happiness, greater life satisfaction. The mere thought of setting out on a journey boosts happiness. With a 2014 Cornell University study revealed that the anticipation of an experience such as a trip can significantly increase happiness, be a release of happiness. It far surpasses the pleasure we derive from anticipating the purchase of material goods. Another study finds that frequent travel make you 7% happier. That doesn't sound like a lot, but my twins are flying Flynn out for Thanksgiving next week to their place in North Carolina to stay for a week. And my daughter asked me via text message today. She said, I haven't heard much from Flynn about this. Is he excited to come down? And I said, oh, yeah, he's excited in his Flynn way. Flynn's very quiet. Quiet waters run deep. But he's said to me several times, oh, I cannot wait. This is going to be really fun. They're going to take him on a couple little adventures down there. Then they're going to take Ellery late in December and to take her on a little adventure of her own. So they've been doing it with the kids. Sherry Emily Avery says, do you think we are all gods? Do you mean, Sherry, are we all gods in the sense that I'm a god, you're a god, JP's a god, Michelle's a god, Randall Flagg's a god? Is that how you mean? No. That's a simple answer. I could do a whole show on that topic, and maybe we will, and we'll visit that again. I think that we have attributes that make us like gods. I do know if you were to go even to Judeo-Christianity, and when Adam bit out of that fruit in the Garden of Eden, what did it say? And the Elohim said, they have eaten of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and have become like gods. In that sense, maybe. I think we are like gods, and that we are like what we were created by, who we are like who created us. And some of these things are still questions at this advanced stage in my educating myself on those things. I still don't know all the answers to. I can by faith say I believe this, but I believe there's more to that. Sherry, you've given us a topic to talk about on the show. Maybe we'll hit that a little bit on Friday's show. And Rapid Dog, yeah, that was a fast hour, wasn't it? It's already after an hour. There's still more. Stick around. Don't go away yet. Do we believe that it's just a coincidence that Finland is both the most well-traveled country, with the average Finn making 7.5 trips a year, and the happiest country in the world? Is that a coincidence? Following his travels in Sri Lanka, psychology professor, author Ted Kashdan reflected on the profound effects of challenging adventures. He observes that they foster personal growth, greater emotional agility, empathy, and creativity. One thing my grandfather said to me, with his travels, he traveled through South America, Central America, Thailand, and other places around the world. He said one thing, by meeting all the people, it brought back his empathy and his emotional energy, emotional agility. And he would show pictures of little kids that were the children of the people he was staying with, that were very third world people. And I'm sure he left them something to help them out too, but they housed him and fed him, and he went on his way. And he came back greatly enriched by that. Now, Todd Kashdan is supported by a 2022 study that indicates engaging in adventure can bolster our resilience, our ability to sustain psychological well-being. It references a growing body of evidence that identifies various benefits associated with adventure, including stronger social connections, support, responsibility for others, perseverance, self-awareness, confidence, stress management, and a direct connection with nature. Wow. Wow. Those are all the things, those are all the benefits we get by adventure and travel. Recognizing and channeling our innate desire for novelty into travel is a healthy way to fulfill our quest for new experiences. It's a powerful reminder that understanding our behaviors and consciously choosing those that yield long-term happiness is the cornerstone to a fulfilling life. Therefore, investing in adventure can lead to a more intentional allocation of your finances. Prioritizing activities that deliver enduring satisfaction over fleeting pleasures. This can naturally reduce wasteful spending on non-essential items that you think you won't miss. Our house is filled with stuff that we needed to have, but could probably live without in the long run. The good news is that we don't need a lot of money to have an adventure. You don't need to venture far to find it. Adventure is right outside. I'm pointing at it right outside your front door. I don't like to run. I like to bike. And I'm even bad at that these days. The shape of my body can tell you that. It used to be one of my favorite things to do is biking. There were always days when my enthusiasm waned, though, but I found that in order to maintain the energy that I got out of biking, I did it every day, and I made no excuses until my bike disappeared. And then I stopped biking. I didn't go out and buy a new one right away. That was a long time ago. That was about the time I met Rainey. Just a few months before I met Rainey. There were days it was raining outside. There were days it was too hot. I didn't bike in the winter, by the way. Did different things inside. I had a Nordic track. I had a remember Soliflexes, the weightlifting machine and the bench. I had one of those in my studio. Sometimes there were days when I was slow at what I was doing. I'd find myself as I'm biking, watching the road beneath me. I'd keep an eye where I was going, obviously, but watching the road pass, thinking, I'm almost done. I'm almost done. I'm almost there. One more turn to make my circle here and get back. And I was counting down the minutes to get done. And for a long time, I mistook this for fatigue, but I realized it's a form of burnout from the monotony of routine. The same route, the same pace. Introducing variety, switching streets, altering my pace, reversing my route was the antidote. It injected all kinds of new adventure into my bike rides. With my children, I follow a simple rule: do the new thing. Not as much as I'd like to. I'll be very honest about that. Life sometimes becomes overwhelming, overbearing. I told you the last couple of weeks I didn't feel very good, and I thought there was something deeply wrong with me, that my docs aren't fine. I still in the back of my head go, there's something going on. It's my diabetes is in check. My heart is good. All my blood work comes back right. The prostate scare, a mild scare, turned out to be normal. Elevated, but normal. And so there's all kinds of little things, tiredness, dizziness, all of that I constantly deal with. And it makes me feel old, and I'm starting to think, I'm wondering if I just need to chalk this up to not doing. And once you start to feel, you have that day where you don't do, and then you do, and then you don't do a few more days, and then it gets more, or you've had an ailment or something, and pulling yourself up out of that hole, sometimes it gets to the point where One of the last times I was in Egypt, even though I was in good shape back then, I had the back problem I have now, the broken back issue. I would find that we were climbing the side of a cliff face, not vertical; it was diagonal, getting up to the old workers' cave in Luxor, and I found taking a step onto this big stone. I stood there for a minute because I couldn't work up the energy to lift that leg. I wasn't worn out, just I knew I would get pain from it. That was a microcosm of what I face now. Now, some days it's like putting on my pants in the morning. It's like, oh, I got to bend over. I got to put a leg in. I got to pull it up, those kinds of things. Randall Flagg said in the chat room, traveling around the world. He's remembering Leonard Skinner. Traveling around the world, just singing my song. I gotta go. Lord, I can't stay long. Here comes that old Traveling Jones once again. I don't know the song well enough to sing it. Sad to say. So sometimes with the family, with my wife, with my kids, whether it's exploring or a new park or trying out a different restaurant or fishing a new spot, novelty is the key. There's a new place Rainey and I found up in Stillwater, Minnesota. We've been there twice now. I took her to lunch there last week because I said, let's just go do this. Let's go get some lunch. Kids are at school. Let's go get lunch. We went and got lunch at this place. You could eat there because there's a lot of gluten-free stuff there. It's called the Wild Hare in Stillwater, Minnesota. Adventure doesn't have to mean voyaging down the Nile. It can be as simple as biking to work, getting up earlier to watch the sunrise, spending a night under the stars at the nearest campground. Now it's getting too cold outside. We have snow on the ground right now, just dusting, but it's in the 30s now. Camping out, I don't like being cold for my adventure. Let's put it that way. Even a shift from urban to rural surroundings, or vice versa, can be invigorating. These are what adventurer Alistair Humphreys called micro adventures. We talked about these about a year and a half ago. Small yet powerful diversions from daily life. The essence of adventure is not in scale or cost, but in the pursuit of the unfamiliar. T-shirt, pursuit of the unfamiliar. That's the essence of adventure. I have to remind myself of this every day, that the essence of adventure doesn't always mean that I'm going on some grandiose trip somewhere or wild adventure like I just said down the Nile. Spend time in new places among people whose life stories differ from your own, and you're going to succeed at stretching yourself. That's the pursuit of the unfamiliar. Put another way, adventure is not a luxury you attain. It's a habit you build. That's what adventure is. Cheap adventure is still adventure. And it happens right outside your front door. As T.S. Eliot observed in 4 Quartets, he said, we shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. The allure of travel and adventure is undeniable. The journeys we embark upon become treasures, while the ones we miss are shadows of regret. I want to show you something just by tipping my my computer around here. I want you to see this. You've seen it before, but if you look across my studio over there. That cabinet right there has a bunch of things that have changed my life. It's the memories I've accumulated, all in a little cabinet. And this cabinet full of memories and stuff all around me. My grandfather's walking stick that he took through the jungles of Thailand with him. All of these things. These are the things that are our memories. These are tangible ones. But our remembrances are the end of the adventure. At the end of the adventure is the remembrance, the memories that we bring home. The allure of the travel is undeniable, and we set out on it. It's the treasures and the ones we miss, the shadows of regret. The journeys we embark on become treasures, while the ones we miss have those shadows of regret. I can attest to that. When a close friend got married in Egypt years ago, my circumstances didn't allow for me to be there. It led me to decline the invitation. And despite the sensible reasons that kept me grounded, a twinge of regret lingers to this day. Adventure isn't rational, it's natural. And even more, it's necessary. Certainly, practicality imposes the boundaries of our adventures. You can't eat a passport, and financial ruin isn't a fair price for any trip. Yet when we embark on that final, inescapable journey, we can't take wealth with us. Ancient Egyptians buried with golden artifacts bear silent witness to that fact. You also can't take the Eiffel Tower's iron lacework or the thunderous roars of Africa's proud lions or the watchful stars over Alaska's quiet wildness. Can't take that with us either. But you'll hold dearly the memories of such sights on your deathbed. Wherever you believe you'll travel to after you die. If you've woven a tapestry of adventures with your time, with your resources, you can rest assured you'll venture there unburdened by regret. Don't wait. The world beckons. And if this resonates with you, then start doing something about that. And I mentioned that I had 9 things. We're already at 10:25, but 9 reasons adventure travel is good for you. That was all my introduction to getting to it. Imagine that. I thought I'd get through that all in a half an hour. Spending your time outdoors, it reduces stress. There's one of the things right there. 9 reasons that travel and adventure is good for you. Spending time outdoors reduces your stress. 2, nature makes exercise easier. If you're having trouble getting the motivation to get fit, research conducted at the University of Essex suggests that exercise feels easier when you're viewing the color green, such as on trees and grass and other plants in nature. Who knows? If you're looking for a way to get fit the easy way, fool your mind and go on an active adventure in nature where it's green. Right now, it's going to be white. So, if green space makes exercise feel easier, then our cycle tours that we can launch into. I used to cycle 6 to 12 miles a day. And I saw a lot of green when I did that. It's going to be a breeze. 3, Nature can rejuvenate the soul. One of the best reasons to spend time outdoors trekking and cycling is that it can reinvigorate your mental state. I was looking at some articles on, I used to get Outside magazine. You can look them up, Outside magazine, and look at some of the articles they've got. Yeah, they can get a little too to the, oh, I don't know. Sorry, Outside magazine, but sometimes you come across to me like the tree hugging, um, we can save the planet types. Sometimes it's just travel and adventure. That's a good magazine to look at for that. So it can rejuvenate your your soul. And I see all these articles in there that were about travel and the things where people said, I was risking my life and I knew it. I was terrified of the thing I was doing and where I was going, but it was worth it because this is where I ended up. I also like watching, and I watch these when I go to sleep at night. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's called his YouTube channel. He's the Desert Drifter. And he goes to America's Southwest, United States Southwest, and goes through all the canyons and the deserts and all of that. Looks at the old ruins and things. He's a young guy and really peaceful. But this is a guy that does things that if I did them, I said, if I was doing that right now, I'd fall 90 feet to my death. So I'm sure he deals with that. The breakdown. Aaron says grounding is something I do on a regular basis. Getting out in the grass barefoot. Yeah, I do it all the time. I walk around barefoot all the time. Ground myself. It's the best way to do it. He goes on and he says, my great-grandmother always said to get outside for a few minutes each day, regardless of the weather, to get some sunshine. Yeah, that's spot on, Aaron. Aaron's over in our chat room. Earthing, says Michelle Canham-Free. Earthing, indeed. So let's go. I'm going to go through these last few points of these 9 reasons. I go through them fast. The last one, number 3, was nature can rejuvenate your soul. 4, gain a sense of accomplishment. I did that. I did that thing. I look at that and I go, I went out of John and Maria's site at Gebel El Silsila in Egypt. Spans both sides of the Nile. And I would just take off. They'd go do some of their digging. And I'd say, today I'm going to go take some pictures over here. And I'd go wander the West Bank. And it's above north of Komombo on the Nile, south of Luxor. Sahara Desert on one side of the Nile, the Eastern Desert on between the Nile and the Red Sea on the east. But I would just throw the pack over my shoulder and my camera, and I'd go wander off into the Sahara Desert. I'd go over onto the East Bank, and I'd wander off into all the places in the rocky crags over there, taking pictures. Trying to compile stuff for a book that we were all putting together. And so you gain a sense of accomplishment in doing things. Number 5, travel increases your self-awareness. And there's a byproduct of travel is raising your self-awareness, who you are. It's one of the most beneficial parts of taking on an adventurous trip anywhere. Adventure travel brings you close to your inner self. It gives you the chance to examine and challenge yourself in ways that you didn't think were possible. God, I wish I'd thought of this earlier. There's a quote that I want to share with you, if I can find it really quickly here. You all remember Anthony Bourdain. He committed suicide a few years ago. Really liked his stuff. Some believe there is conspiracy theories. He was uncovering certain things politically that was kind of outside of his bailiwick, and he did some thing and ran across things. And some people said he wasn't suicide. He was suicided. But I've got some quotes of his. Listen to this. Here's some of his quotes. And if you ever watched his shows, you can still catch them on YouTube and other places. Travel changes you. As you move through this life and the world, you change things slightly. You leave marks behind, however small. And in return, life and travel leave a mark on you. He said the journey is part of the experience, an expression of the seriousness of one's intent. One doesn't take a train to Mecca. He says if you're 22, physically fit, hungry to learn and be better, I urge you to travel as far and as widely as possible. Sleep on those floors if you have to. Find out how other people live and eat and cook. Learn from them wherever you go. He also said, if I'm an advocate for anything, it's to move as far as you can, as much as you can, across the ocean or simply across the river. The extent to which you can walk in someone else's shoes or at least eat their food is a plus for everybody. Open your mind to get up off the couch and move. Travel is about the gorgeous feeling of teetering on the unknown. That's a great quote. He said, travel isn't always pretty. It isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it hurts. It even breaks your heart. But that's okay. The journey changes you, and it should change you. It leaves marks on your memory, on your consciousness, on your heart, and on your body. You take something with you. Hopefully you leave something good behind. And he had a lot more to say. So that was Anthony Bourdain. Now, to kind of wrap these 9 reasons up, number 6, the outdoors can make you smarter. SMRT, smart. Immersing yourself in the outdoors can increase your higher order cognition in more ways than you might think. Active trips increase activity in your hippocampus. Brain stuff. The brain's main storage unit. Typically, the hippocampus decreases as you get older. It leads to memory loss. However, physical outdoor activity can lead to a chemical reaction in the body that increases the hippocampus. To gain a sharper mind, have some adventures outdoors. Get your hippocampus working. Number 7, forge new friendships. You take an adventure and you gain a friend. I've got more friends in Egypt than I now haven't seen for over 8 years. And they're still friends of mine. I'll get there again. I've got friends in other countries. I've got friends in England and Ireland and Scotland. I've got friends in Honduras. I've got friends in South America. I've got friends in Europe. I've got friends in Japan and China. Some of them I haven't visited. Embarking on a challenge with other people can bring you close together. Sharing the trials, the triumphs, gives you something to bond over. Forms relationships that'll embed deep in your memories. I've got, with my friend John Ward, I've got such amazing memories for the things that we did. Climbing mountains in the Sinai and the experiences we had of a physical, a spiritual, emotional levels. Always be here. Number 8, learn new skills. If you ever brush up on your skills, a trip abroad is what you need. Going to places. Number 9, know that you're making a difference when you travel ethically. There's more to travel than just experiencing nature's finest spaces. Embarking on a trip to some of the world's most remote and untouched corners puts money into the local economy and it helps preserve these pristine landscapes. There's a whole lot more on that. So those are 9 reasons that adventure is good for you. So, there you go, folks. Janice says in the chat room, I'm challenging myself and have been for several months. And learning so much about myself, it feels good to be alive and moving forward. Sure does. I know what you're talking about, Janice. Yes, he was, Michelle. Goosebumps. He was a good writer. So here we are, folks. We're at the end of this program. It's now 10:38. If you want to call in and talk, we can do that. I'm going to take about a 1 or 2 minute break here to regroup our heads. And let's come on right back here. Sit. If you got to leave right now, you can leave. But we'll come back for a few minutes if you'd like to call in or talk or hear what other people have to say about all of this. But for now, let's get out of here for a minute or two, and we'll be right back. If you've got to be gone for the night, live long and prosper.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid radio program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company, or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hi, my dad, so he can take me to Disneyland.
Dave, I love you, brother.
I miss you too.
I miss you too, I heard.
Yep,
Did you guys hear that?
I heard that.
I miss you, Dave. Well, welcome back to the Captain's Cabin in Briefar. And we've got about 18 minutes left. And I'm going to sign off at 11 o'clock tonight when the show is over. If you want to call in and talk about some of your adventures and talk about what adventure means to you, well, now's your chance. Here, I'm going to give you the link. If you don't see it in the description, here it is. I'm pasting it into the chat room. So if you want to come into the chat room, talk about what this means to you. And by the way, Janice, thank you very much. Bless you. I appreciate that. Carpe diem, says Michelle Kenham Free. I had another version of that I had was I can't think of what it is. It was tongue in cheek anyway. So what about your travel and adventures? What do you think about getting out there and making an adventure of all the things that I just told you are things that are benefits to our lives? What do you guys think about that? Sarah said, who was it that said death is an awfully big adventure? Captain Kirk said that, I think. Amongst others. I don't know who originally said that or something like that, but there we go. Anybody else? What you got going, folks? What do you guys want to tell everybody else about? Aaron Barker is here. You see him in the chat room. He's The Breakdown is the name of his show. I will be on Saturday morning this week at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. That would be 10 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m., Mountain Time, 7 a.m. for all those of you on the left coast. You can tune in, and he and I are going to be talking about all kinds of stuff. It'll be a fun hour or two. I can't remember how long you said the show was. So a couple of hours. How about that? So Michelle says falling in love in a wild is a wild adventure. It certainly is. Sometimes falling in love with somebody is like shooting the rapids, or climbing Everest, or running through a flowery field. And so adventure can be all kinds of things. I've got a certain idea in my head of what adventure is supposed to be like, what it's supposed to look like. I've done some of those things. And I've got the trappings of it all around me. So the fastest 2 hours on a Saturday, says Aaron about The Breakdown, show that I will be on Saturday with him. And so you guys should tune in if you're around Saturday morning. If you're not doing anything, if you're sleeping in or just scrubbing around, drinking your coffee, come on in. Hear us. We'll have a good time. Like I said at the beginning, there's probably things that we're going to be talking about that you on this show have heard before, but there's also going to be other things that we're going to talk about. So, yeah, there it is. All right. Well, guys, I've got 10:46, and since the lines are not lighting up tonight, guess what? We're going to cut this off right here. I got things to do, like sleep. I got stuff to start with tomorrow morning. Wish me luck. I got junk going on, and I'm sure you do too. So that's it. That's all we got. So once again, I want to repeat for you the mantra that Ian Punnett used to tell us every day at the end of his morning show here in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. And some of you know Ian Punnett from coast to coast on the weekends. Ian Punnett passed away earlier this year, I think it was. And rather suddenly, nobody knew it was coming. And he used to end every one of his shows by saying, "It is said that each one of us influences up to 1,000 people in our lifetimes. How will you be influential today?" is what he asked. And so Uncle Dave used to say, "Be good to each other." So there it is. We're going to wrap it up. Here's to more adventure, says Aaron. Have a good night, everybody. I appreciate your coming in. We will see you on Friday evening, and we'll talk more about what's going on for the weekend. So until then, as always, live long and prosper.